So I've known the academics from SOCSI for a number of years. We've worked together in the past on other projects, and I was approached to see if some methodology that has been used successfully in SOCSI could be transferred to and applied to the School of Pharmacy. It sounded like a good opportunity. It's really important that when we make changes to our professional course, that it is evidence-based. And these sessions, getting the students to talk together, getting the students to develop their cases with their peers has been really powerful. And for me, it's been the depth that this opportunity has allowed us to go into each individual case. And it's something that in normal feedback, it's too shallow to go into the proper depth that you need to maybe change something quite significant on the course. We're always reviewing and evolving our course, and that's really essential for a healthcare course, because healthcare never stands still. But to do that, we need to have a good evidence-based. So we don't always know we think we know what's best sometimes to develop our program, but I think the students who are really engaged in that program are those who can give us the best insight. So I'm very happy to consider all of the cases that we've gained in this project as to help us with the evidence base for making real changes to our program. And I particularly liked the draft posters where everyone put their ideas up on a wall, and all the other people in the group stuck post-it notes to it and commented on it. And actually, if someone was perhaps a bit nervous about their case and thought, well, it just affects me, it gave them the confidence of their peers agreeing with them and saying, yes, I agree with that, or maybe I've had that experience too. It gave them the confidence to be able to develop their case further. I think this is something would be very valuable to continue in the future. We've just looked at one aspect of 1 year of our program. I think it would be very interesting to apply this methodology to other years or to other specific questions. I think the difference between a healthcare-based program and other academic courses in the university is that the subject is constantly evolving. So guidelines change, evidence change, and a degree course has to keep on top of that to make sure that it's producing the best quality graduates. So I think this approach to obtaining detailed student feedback is essential to basically keep developing a modern, changing and relevant healthcare degree. The students were initially attracted by the promise of tea and cakes, and they probably looked perhaps a little bit unsure or unclear about exactly what it was we were asking of them. But the methodology, they've been taken through the methodology step by step. And I think it's quite obvious in the way that they've engaged and the way that they're sticking with this process all the way through. It's very clear evidence to me that they understand the value of the process, but also they've really changed and engaged with it.
I think student voice is the most important thing. And what's different about it is it gives students an opportunity to delve more deeply into what they think about their program, what their experiences are. So in that sense, it offers the opportunity for a richer voice to be heard than maybe some of the mechanisms that we have at the moment for understanding how students are feeling about their course or their experience or their interactions with staff. I think that's the real value of this. I think for them it's reflection, and it's having the time for reflection. So if you compare it with maybe a survey where you'd have a free text box where you're asking them to think at that particular moment in time when they don't have a lot of time to reflect on what they might want to offer in terms of feedback, this is different to that. It gives them over a course of a few weeks and different sessions and periods of time of a few hours to not only generate the kinds of things that they want to talk about, but actually reflect on them in terms of how they might have approached things differently. So looking inward, reflect a little bit more on the context of university, seeing it from different perspectives, so not necessarily thinking, something's being done to me by the university, but actually understanding the context of professionals and what pressures they might be under. So for them, the time to reflect and being maybe challenged or questioned around what their initial views on something might be, and for them to look at it in more across more dimensions, that's what the time allows them to do, and that's what brings out a bit more of a story and a bit more context. So yeah, they can reflect on something that they may have thought was a case about something particular, and actually what they find through the course of that reflection is that it's actually about something different. So yeah, the reflection is the main thing, and that's only really achieved by having that time and having those conversations where their views and their opinions and their thoughts are drawn out and challenged and different perspectives presented to them. But I think having Alex there from the school, reflecting on these cases, I think there's certainly things that I'm sure he's identified that the school is either addressing or needs to address or can pick up. And I think that's an important component of it. I think having Emma Jane and Alex as well, who aren't from the school, is helpful in terms of students being more confident to express some of the things about the school. But I think also having Alex means that those insights that they've given go directly to someone who can start to influence change a little bit. So obviously hard to say because there's different range of cases, but I think there are the individuals involved that can start the conversations around making changes. I think definitely it is a model that can be adopted more broadly than one particular school. I think in the same way that you have to think about things more broadly when you're scaling up anything, there does need to be some consideration about how that would work effectively. I think the facilitation of the sessions and people who are accustomed to working through the case-making process and are accustomed to making students feel really comfortable through that process and supported is really important. So I suppose what I'm saying in that respect is I think the people who facilitate it and what they bring to that is really important, probably beyond the model and the process and the mechanics itself, which I think is really sound. And on that basis, I think definitely, you can take what the process and the sequence of weeks and what students do in those weeks, but you need to think carefully about the human element and who's best placed to do that from a school perspective. And I think what's interesting in this case is that you had a mixture. So you had people who were completely removed from the school. I think that's a useful thing to have in terms of students maybe feeling a bit more open to talk about stuff, but equally having someone within the school that can give a better insight into some of the specifics and can also then take them and start to run with them and make changes. I think it's really important. So yes, but you need to think carefully about who would do that.